Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 8 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and I serve as the Future Ready Librarians leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, today, to kick off season 8, I am so excited to welcome my friend Jennifer to the Future Ready Librarian podcast. And this is something that I always love hearing what she is up to and catching up on the great things that I already know about. And so I know that you guys are going to love this conversation too. So, welcome, Jennifer, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's fun touching base because we did this about 2 or 3 years ago. And so it's fun to follow up what's been happening since then.
I'm so excited. And just to start, tell people what you do and where you're located and all the things that you want to share about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Jen McKenzie. I'm a K-12 district teacher librarian in Sayusa School District, which is located in Florence, Oregon. So we're on the coast. This is actually my 20th year as a teacher. I was an English teacher first and then moved into library land. And another fun fact, my husband and I will be celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary in April. So it's kind of a big year.
That's awesome. That is a
Yeah.
good year. That is so great. Well, and I love when I asked you what you wanted to talk about, and your title that you kind of wanted to say was that we're all in this together, and to speak a little bit about how you've been so busy with the Fulbright program and just global collaboration through the library, which I know is something you're so passionate about. And so I'm really excited just to catch up on that and hear more about, the innovation and collaboration and the exploration that you and your kids do. I am also in a K-12 school and library, and we're so lucky, right? Because we get to work with all of those little people and the older ones too within our learning communities. And one thing that you spoke about before was just connecting our kids and our teachers through virtual field trips. And so I want to catch up on that first and
Yeah.
just hear how that's going.
Right. Yeah. So the last time we spoke, we talked a lot about virtual field trips. That was something that this is my 4th year in Sayusa School District. And when I joined the district, it was the middle of the pandemic still. So everybody was using the virtual field trips to connect our learning communities. Sayusas were really unique because we focused a lot on cell phone and a selfie stick virtual field trips. So I would be cruising around town, interviewing folks. I'd have 100 kids on a Google Meet, joining along for that journey. And through your Future Ready Summits, I met Michelle Carton, who also is really into the virtual field trips. She's also a Fulbright alumni, and she's who convinced me to apply for the Fulbright program. So that's how I got looped into Fulbright. And one quick fun fact about the virtual field trips, we still do a ton of them. We do at least 2 a month, specifically with our Oregon Coast Humane Society. They're our #1 partnering collaborator. And occupational hazard a little bit because I now have 2 kitties and 2 puppies that I have adopted from the Oregon Coast Humane Society. It's like every time I go to record a read aloud and do a trip, I bring back animals. So yeah, the virtual field trips have led to the Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms program. That's actually what I led with into my application. Florence, Oregon is a kind of a rural, isolated little community on the coast. So it's really important that we connect our staff members and our students to experiences outside of our little community. And that was my main intent in applying for Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms because um, I wanted to take my kids with me across the globe, wherever I was stationed or whatever country I was assigned to. So, so yeah, that's how I got into Fulbright. That's how it began.
I love that. And I'm sure that, well, number one, love the virtual field trips. And I can just like picture you like with your little stick and everything that you did. We think back now to the pandemic and the things, like the big ahas are the great things that came from that time and how we just like think differently now. We think of things in creative and innovative ways to bring to our kids. And I love that you wanted to do the Fulbright teachers or scholarship. What do you call it? Global education, right?
Yeah, there are many different iterations of Fulbright. This one specifically is Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms. That's the same program that Michelle Carton did as well. That one in particular is really great because I think of it like a Fulbright mini in that you do online work with a cohort of friends for about a year, and then you do about 3 weeks of international travel where you're assigned to another country and learning community. You get to teach abroad in another language, possibly. And then some of the other Fulbright programs are longer, 3 to 6 months. They have a Fulbright program specifically for K-12 administrators that might still be accepting applications right now. And I guess another piece I'll mention about Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms, they're really seeking teacher librarians because we have reach over an entire learning community, right? So whoever applies to the program, they're really looking for excellent educators, educators with a global perspective, and they're looking for reach. They want to show how many students are impacted by every single Fulbright participant. So I mean, that's what we do. That's our job as teacher librarians. We see all the folks across the whole entire learning community. So
Well, and I think for people who don't know what Fulbright, what the program is, just tell us a little bit about the background of that as a whole, too.
yeah, I'm actually going to read a little paragraph off that I have printed here. So it was established during World War II to foster international collaboration across the globe. Fulbright grants scholars, students, and professionals opportunities to live, learn, and collaborate in diverse communities. The immerse experiences cultivate cultural awareness, break down stereotypes, and build lasting relationships that transcend borders. And it's sponsored by the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education. And it's oftentimes considered one of the most prestigious or prominent awards you can receive, not just in our country, but globally. So most of the Fulbright programming also revolves around the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look those up, or if you're familiar with those, there are things like everyone deserves education. No one should be hungry. Everyone deserves to have a home. Gender equality is another one of the SDGs as well. So again, that's kind of like our jam in the library too, right? Like we're broad-minded, we celebrate diversity. And so being looped into Fulbright, it really complements the work that we're all already doing in our libraries. So
I
that's
love that.
what we share about that. Yeah.
I know. And I just want to hear what I find to be so fascinating too is just to share like what your exchange looked like and where you went. Because as a librarian, like I'm sitting there and I started that, I would love to do this. And I think it's just fascinating and so neat and special that you got to experience this. And so tell people a little bit about what your exchange was like.
Yeah, so again, we did a portion of like graduate online work. I want to say there were about 70 of us in my cohort, and that part was cool, just getting to collaborate with people across the country. And then we were all assigned different, international countries to go teach in. So my country of assignment was Peru. So it was my first time heading on down to Peru. And there were a team of about 20 of us. We first got situated in Lima, and we got to work with the United States Embassy in Lima. We got to meet Peace Corps folks. We got to march in Lima Pride Parade, which was insane and huge. And then from Lima, we all kind of split out to our communities all across the country. So my friend Ann Cummings and I headed on down to Moquegua, Peru, which is like kind of the southern tip near Chile. And Dennis Barrios is another Fulbright alumni who was our cooperating teacher. And so Anne and I got to work at his school and teach for at least a week, become immersed in the culture, travel around the countryside. We did a lot of like speaking engagements with public officials and other educators in the area. We got to meet with and teach some students from their teachers' college. So it was just like a super fabulous experience, life-changing experience for sure. And teaching in another country in another language. Like I have basic Spanish speaking proficiency. I need to work on my Spanish. And there were moments where I just had to pick up my phone and teach using Google Translate, and it worked. So that was an excellent experience. I recommend that for any educator.
I think it's
Yeah.
so. So where are you at now? Like, are you working on another project or?
We are. So once you become a Fulbright alumni, you're then eligible for return grants. So I applied for a global education grant to continue the work with that learning community. So it's about a $5,000 grant. And what we're doing is Anne, who is a sustainability teacher from Missouri, we're connecting students from her learning community, students from SIUSLA, and then students from, I think now 4 different schools down in Moquegua. We're actually starting our Zoom meetings after spring break, so in March. So we're going to meet up. We'll be meeting up via Zoom, several sessions, and we're connecting students through multi-genre writing. So I used to be an English teacher. I think everybody kind of is familiar with multi-genre writing because we're all doing choice boards, especially since the pandemic. So multi-genre writing just it's a creative way to research a topic.
Yeah.
And in addition to the multi-genre pieces, this is kind of like year one or phase one, I'm hoping, of this international collaboration because we're bringing in really cool technology. So 360 camera footage as well as Oculus virtual reality. And so we're going to get grounded this year, figure out all of our academic working rhythms, do the multi-genre work, introduce the technology and make sure all learning communities are comfortable with it. And then next year, start producing more tech-centric multi-genre pieces to include like oral histories as well. So, so yeah, it's pretty cool, pretty beautiful project. And Shannon, you do this stuff you do the international collabs all the time with like your traveling murals. And so I actually beg, borrow, stole a little bit of that idea. One of our multi-genre pieces that I want to invite everybody to participate in is a Kind Eyes project. So it's literally like if you think about how our eyes look when we're smiley and kind, they're like squinty and squishy. And so the task is to try to draw them or take a picture or paint. This is some artistic example. We just had a literacy night, so I had families and students doing these. On the back, you're writing your name, age, and a wish you have for the world, right? So this one is no more racism. How about that? This set of eyes says, dream for the world to appreciate what's had. Here's another sample. I wish we could all love each other and school was free for everyone. So I am hoping to get thousands of these eyes,
Let's help promote this.
yeah, to put together. And I'll be presenting at ISTE in Denver in June and displaying all the eyes. Our Fulbright group is presenting. So
Good. That's
yeah.
awesome. I love it. Oh, what a great project. I know. And that's one thing that I was wondering about, like, having an opportunity to present these things is not only great for what you are doing in Peru, but also just great lessons for all of us, right? When we're working with our own communities. I think that's a really great thing as well. So what have you been up to in your own like school and your own learning community? I know you said you're going to ISTE and working on this project.
Yeah, kind of a busy spring. So I'll be presenting a little piece of this at the Oregon Library Association conference in April. I'm also doing a session in April about equity, diversity, and inclusion and like how to conduct an equity walkthrough of our district libraries. I'll be heading to a Fulbright STEAM-centric conference in Washington, D.C. in May. And then, yep, ISTE Live is in Denver, and it'll be several of more folks than just Anne and Dennis. We're going to have quite a crew presenting and sharing about our international collaborations. And then in July, I'm heading back down to Moquegua. So that was part of the grant. So we're going to head back down. We'll be there for about 10 days. It's really an opportunity to do a tech check, to connect with students and staff, and just further develop our multi-genre writing skills. Another really interesting thing about this whole project is just figuring out the logistics of international collaboration. Primarily, our school calendars and school rhythms are almost opposite, right? So that's been an interesting challenge to figure out, but it's totally possible. So our presentation when we're in Denver at ISTE, that's probably one of the number one things we're going to speak to is just how to overcome those logistical challenges um, that sometimes cause teachers to not want to try the collabs, you
Mhm.
know? And I'll mention that that's another beautiful part of what our job is, Shannon, is that we can be the conduit to connect people. So I was a classroom English teacher with 180 students, a huge, teaching load. And it can be hard to take that extra step and so it's just a great position for us to be in. Oftentimes, like I have a flexible point of need schedule, so it allows me to bebop around a little bit more than a classroom teacher. And I love joining forces with a classroom teacher and helping them connect to a community partner. And so
Yeah.
we'll be talking about the logistics of that quite a bit.
That's awesome. I think it
Yeah.
is so true. Like when people, listen and they think like I have so many other things on my plate. I think the great thing is though, is we can tie these things into what is already happening within the curriculum. We can tie it to digital citizenship, like
Yeah.
so many things as librarians, but also to support our teachers with their social studies or science or,
Research
reading
standards. They're
language.
reading and research standards, right?
And that's so exciting too.
Yeah.
I haven't really talked about this yet on the podcast, but I have been doing a project with Level Up Village and it's called Love for Libraries. And we're going to start connecting schools within the United States. We're kicking it off right now with a pilot with our second grade, and we're connecting. And then by next fall, we'll kick off this project. And we're using Sonia's Digital World, the book that I wrote with Isti and Capstone. So I want to share that with you, Jen, because you would love it. And also with all of our listeners, I think it would be a great way for librarians and for our libraries to get connected. And so I'll share some more information as we go in the season, and I'll also share it with you because I think that would be really fun to have you as part of that too.
That sounds fabulous. Hey, one other thing I wanted to mention, I can't remember if I mentioned this during our conversation yet, is um, I want teacher librarians to embrace Fulbright opportunities. I just think it's good for our team, right? And also it's allowed me or helped me decide to pursue my doctorate in education, which has been a lifelong dream of mine, but I needed a little nudge. Like sometimes, I suffer from a little imposter syndrome and Fulbright, once I got a Fulbright, I'm like, well, of course I can apply to get my doctorate. So I'm almost halfway through that program. And my emphasis is in social justice leadership. And my dissertation topic is will speak to our school library community. It's actually status-based microaggressions possibly experienced by teacher librarians because it's kind of the landscape that we're living in right now. Um, but yeah, I really just want to encourage other teacher librarians to reach out to me personally if you have questions about Fulbright. I've got my eye on another program opportunity down the road. There's a Fulbright National Geographic storytelling opportunity. So there are just so many possibilities and resources that we can bring back to our learning communities. So
I'm gonna
thanks
go
for letting
with
me share that last bit.
No, I want to go with you. I think I'm going to look this up. With if people want to know more about Fulbright, where do they go? Where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so we'll put the web link into the notes. I mean, if you just Google Fulbright.com and then yeah, there are so many different iterations of the program. The Fulbright Teachers for Global Classrooms application it's already closed for this year. It usually closes late February to early March. And then you usually find out in August if you've been accepted. And I will willingly share my application materials and I've already recruited a handful of teacher librarians. And so I'm like on a mission to do more recruiting for them. Again, it's just a win-win. It's a win for Fulbright to have us because of our reach and capacity. And it's a win for our Future Ready Librarian Network to be looped into Fulbright. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful partnership.
Oh, I'm so happy that you found that program and that you learned about, not only how to do it yourself, but that you're encouraging others because
Yeah.
I do think experiences like that make such a difference, not only in what we're doing as teacher librarians, but also just in our lives, right? And so
Yeah. It's
really
life-giving and brings joy too. Like it's the most joyful professional experience I've ever had. So
I'm so happy. I'm so happy that you came and shared this story with us. And I can't wait to see you at ISTE. And I want to do the Kind Ice project. And so I have so much to do now after this. Love
right.
it. I always love talking to you. You make my day.
Oh, it's always great catching up with you too, Shannon.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or to my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.